Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
The U.S. economy slowed drastically in the first 3 months of the year as harsh winter exacted a toll on business activity. That's according to the federal government, ladies and gentlemen. No, what happened is the deindustrialization of this country, the devaluation of the currency, the coal power plants being shut down all over the nation, energy prices going up, Obamacare hitting small businesses and even large businesses. That's what hit the U.S. economy. That's what happened. And even with their cooked books, they claim that the economy grew 0.1%. Now, they call 3.5% overheating. But previous to the Federal Reserve domination of economic policy in this country, the private Federal Reserve with its fraudulent con artist name, this country on average had more than a 10% growth rate per year from 1798 until right through 1913. That's a 10% growth rate. We've not seen a 10% growth rate, ladies and gentlemen, since World War II. That is the only time post-Federal Reserve we've seen that. We almost saw a 10% growth rate when Kennedy cut the main income tax bracket by 50%. We did see almost a 10% increase in growth then as well. So 0.1% growth, and that's with all the cooked job numbers, all the cooked growth numbers, all the stimulus money given to select globalist interest as a basic bank robbery. And the establishment then has the nerve to tell us that we've got a wondrous, happy-go-lucky economy. Where should I start, though, in all of the news that we've got today? We mentioned some of this yesterday. It really is a big deal. New declassified docs expose Obama's Benghazi lies that they did know day one, and they've been caught lying about not knowing those emails. We'll talk more about that today. Also, we will continue to get into the situation in Fukushima. We told you this about a year into it, 2 years ago. Now here it is in Reuters. Study finds Fukushima radioactivity in tuna off Oregon and off of Washington. We're going to get into that. Very important news. Also, drug-resistant superbugs, a serious threat worldwide, says the WHO. Sources say Sebelius now refusing to testify to Senate panel, all part of the lawlessness. Also, Utah lawmaker wants to disarm BLM IRS, says they're not paramilitary units. I totally agree. What is the paramilitarization of all these federal agencies, from the Social Security Administration right down to the IRS? It's part of the system arming itself against its prey that's trying to struggle free out of the trap. Also, we've got the really big news. East Ukraine slips from Kiev government's grasp. Russian President Putin warns West over not being involved in Ukraine. Basically says back off or suffer shutdown of U.S. Western energy-based companies exploring and exporting oil in the giant Russia. Also, we'll get into the latest disinformation article out of the Times of Israel. Syria hiding chemical weapons, says Israeli intel. It's on record that the al-Qaeda people have been caught launching the chemical attacks with Saudi Arabia and Turkey. That's even been in the BBC, trying to blame Assad. Assad has agreed to give up his chemical weapons, and who knows, he might be hiding some. But the point is, you read headlines like this, and it implies they're behind the chemical attacks. They're not. They're not the ones starting the war. And again, I'm no fan of Assad, but he's not al-Qaeda. So I'm not siding with al-Qaeda. End of story. Not going to happen. You can call me unpatriotic, but I don't like al-Qaeda. That's why I'm called an extremist. I mean, you support al-Qaeda, you support Obama shutting America down, or you are an extremist. And so I apologize for being an extremist. I do not support al-Qaeda. We'll be right back. I'm Alex Jones. Stay with us. Well, it's already April 30th, 2014. On this Wednesday edition, I want to thank you all for joining us today. Joel Skousen of World Affairs Brief will be joining us to talk about the economy, Russia, the pivot into Asia, where he sees the world going in the third hour. I do intend on this hump day, middle of the week transmission to try to get to your phone calls in this first hour after I fire out some of the headlines and news here, and then get your take on the state of our world. I've said this many times. There are times in history when more happens in a week or a month than happened in the previous 5-10 years. And we are undoubtedly entering the ultimate version of that, where the waves are going to come quicker and quicker, and you won't just have a time of great change for a few years and then it stops. It's just going to intensify and get more and more wild, more and more out of control. And the globalists intend to surf this singularity, as they call it, or group of pre-singularities to godhood. That's not my words. That's the head of Google, both the head of Google, the CEO of Google, and also their head technology futurist, Ray Kurzweil. He also, of course, is the progenitor of those type of statements. And that is what the entire ruling class is into. That's their religion. That's their culture. That's what they believe in. And then they've deployed different psychological systems and different programming systems in the culture. The new priest class, basically, of bureaucrats and PR men and propaganda and state-sanctioned psychiatrists and psychologists to basically bring in this new world order and label any resistance to it as aberrant, mentally ill, and terrorist. And that is basically the society we live in. That is the eugenics-based social Darwinistic plan. And anyone that ignores those facts does it at their total peril. Because the enemy program that we break down here on this transmission is a public program, is the glue that holds together the entire kleptocratic, fascistic, global, anti-human system. Hitler was only an aberrant expression of this system, according to them. They call him an aberrant expression. They're a more touchy-feely, but in its depths, much darker version of Adolf Alois Hitler and his Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, which was founded and funded by the Rockefeller Foundation publicly, IBM publicly. All of the major Fortune 50 or so, all of them, before World War II, built Adolf Hitler. There's been best-selling books, New York Times bestsellers written on this, IBM and the Holocaust by Black and others. This is an open fact. They were mad at Hitler because he tried to take over everything for himself and wanted to do it in one failed 10-year swoop. They want to do it softly, slowly, lovingly, as you walk slowly into the warm, black waters of death, having no idea what's swimming right beneath the surface. Now, let me go over the headlines here for you today that are up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. China poised to pass the U.S. as world's leading economic power this year. This was all done by design. They turned off our power plants, turned off our roads, turned off our infrastructure, set up the taxes and regulations to force business to move to China. That is the bottom line. We're going to be breaking all of that down today. EU firms help power China's military rise. So-called U.S. firms, EU firms, Russian firms, it doesn't matter. They all sell weapons and systems and integrated systems for the weapons to everyone in a global arms race. And China is the model of the future with transhumanism, execution vans, suicide nets, forced abortions at factories, coffin apartments, and a ruling communist elite that are billionaires and above the law. It's a total joke. You want to live in Tiananmen Square? You will. You want to go out and protest? Here comes the tanks. The tanks are being delivered to every police department in the country. They tried to set up Tiananmen Square at the Bundy Ranch. The people said, no, we're ready to fight back. We're ready to peacefully stand up against you. And the media declared it the ultimate sin, the ultimate evil. Meanwhile, tying into that, man arrested, we're going to play the video later, after taping arrest with cell phone. It's kind of an oxymoron. Man arrested after taping arrest with cell phone. He was taping someone else's arrest. And you see this all the time. This is out of Miami. They don't care if there's a law saying you can videotape police. You're going to go to jail in many areas because they don't want the enemy showing what they're doing. Big Brother's going to listen to your phones illegally. They're going to tell your kids that they belong to the state. They're going to forcibly inoculate them outside of law. They're going to give missile systems to Al-Qaeda. But you don't film the government's enforcers. And I really see this as a litmus test if your county, your city, your state is a tyranny or not. Maryland, Florida, you name it. Illinois, they arrest you for filming police. In Texas, they don't, generally. Most other states, there's 14 states where they order the police to arrest people that film them. There's famous video out of Maryland where the guy's 200 yards away as riot police beat people for no reason. So they come over and take his phone and then beat him and then don't even care to erase it because they think they're in the right. There's a scum enemy with a camera. Go attack him, arrest him. I mean, do those police think there's going to be any future or any liberty or that they're ever going to see their pension funds in a country like that? The police state's being set up because everything's going to be taken and stolen and shut down. America is slated for total deindustrialization. And only UN and 21 cities in select areas are going to be able to even operate. And that's the new numbers out today. Half of New Yorkers say they're on the verge or going bankrupt now. That's New York State. U.S. economy slows drastically to 0.1%. Folks, when they say we're at 3%, that's -3. This economy, its engine's blown by Obamacare, by the shipping the jobs to China. It is just, we are under total economic attack. And that's the stated plan. Make you dependent. They're shutting down fisheries nationwide that actually produce the baby fish and dump them in the ocean. They're shutting down the lobster hatcheries nationwide. They don't want to replenish the fish. They want this country shut down. Beef is at record prices as almost everyone I know in the cattle industry is selling their herd, getting out. You're like, but it's record prices. Not for the seller, because it's rigged by computers. There aren't real stockyards anymore. There aren't real auctions anymore. There isn't a real market. It's totally rigged. In fact, I want to get the Paragon Foundation on soon to talk about that. Barry Brownfield, the famous cattleman before he died, host on this network, on talk radio for 60 years, on over 200 stations, would document how it's rigged. But I don't believe Barry Brownfield. My family has been in cattle ranching since Texas existed. Well, before that, when it was Mexico. And they're getting out of it, leaving a few cows out on the range to say, oh, we get our tax cut because of that. U.S. regulatory costs are world's 10th economy. After years of rapid growth during the Obama administration, the cost of federal regulations is now bigger than the entire economies of all but 9 countries in the world. Listen to that lie in that headline. After years of rapid growth during the Obama administration. What publication is that? Scroll down so I can. That's Investors Business Daily. I mean, that's like saying after years of pigs flying and Easter bunnies dancing and Keebler elves hopping. I mean, it's just total baloney. And I'm not just here complaining. We have a criminal government shutting down the country so they can buy it up for pennies on the dollar and make everybody dependent. We are under scientific military attack. 2 years ago, Obama set up under Homeland Security and Northcom with an executive order the Rural Affairs Commission under Northcom and FEMA to aid rural communities during the new sustainability transition. And you've got real environmental sustainability, growing organic, growing local, shopping local. But their sustainability means you're going to have Pentagon plain clothes in your small town. Agenda 21 comes in with tens of millions, even in towns of 200 people. And they say, we're buying everything, do what we say. We're building a 5-story high-rise. And you're all going to get subsidized to live there now. And it's the only building that gets the free electricity when you move in. This is happening all around Austin. And what it is an actual prison they're putting the town in. They're actually building, and this is their own documents, prison towers in Elgin and places. Actual prison towers that are tax exempt to get you to move into them. It's like putting a piece of food on a bear trap to get the bear to go stick its leg in it. I mean, this is scientific. So the bottom line is, it's easier for governments and ruling systems to just be corrupt and dominate the population. That way they can stay in power, not because they invent the best technologies or have the most beautiful art and are the rightful leaders of society, but because they're the most deceptive, cunning, manipulative scumbags out there. And it really is a disease in human society how many people will psychopathically or sociopathically look at you in your face and tell you that they're your friend, but really they're just cold-blooded lizard brains that think the fact that you're nice is a sign of weakness for them to exploit and take advantage of. And it's time for good people to basically take the quote that's been attributed to quite a few many people throughout history and put it back at the establishment. And anybody else, for that matter, that tries to enslave us or push us around. Don't take my kindness as weakness. And it's time for good people to stand up against evil wherever you run into it. It has only been our acquiescence that has allowed this corruption to grow because basic food needs and shelter needs have been available. Humans at a subconscious level take it then that everything must be all right, even as cultural creeping death is being developed and deployed all around us. By every metric, every major university has put out the reports. We've covered them. You've seen them in the news that literacy's dropping, health is dropping, people being able to navigate complex tasks is dropping, the language is contracting, people are less honorable, corruption is increasing, and basic liberties are being eroded. Economic liberties, religious liberties, the right to travel, the right to not have everything you do be surveilled. There is a revolution by the parasites and by the social engineers and the control freaks against humanity. And knowing that that's going on, and knowing that their psychological warfare tactic of the last 30 years to say there is no corruption, you're not being assaulted, nothing's happening, is nothing more than the psychological technique of gaslighting. It's where you walk up and punch somebody in the nose, and then they go, you punched me in the nose. You go, no, I didn't. What's wrong with you? You just fell down and hit your head. The average weak-minded person will go, I did. I could swear you just punched me in the nose. I mean, I'm bleeding. No, no, no. Or you catch your neighbor when you walk in your house in the dark with a jewelry box in their hands, and they're like, oh, I saw somebody over here, and I chased him down and got this back from him. And you don't want to have the confrontation with your neighbor, Bob. And so you go, okay, Bob, well, where are they? And then you let Bob leave and say, well, thanks. Let's call the police. What do they look like, Bob? Where'd they break in, Bob? I don't see anything broken into, Bob. You're like, well, I won't call the police. We'll keep our eyes out, Bob, because you kind of know it was Bob. And then about a week later, the guy's like, hey, did you take my plant, Jim? You're like, no, Bob, I didn't take your plant off your front porch. Uh-huh. Because that's how those people operate. When you don't go after Bob for breaking in your house, next Bob is going to see you as an enemy because you know he's a thief. And Bob is going to say that you're stealing from him. See, I've learned how the psychology of this scum works. They're going to call you because you want to keep your private property, keep your children, keep your guns, keep your free market, keep your prosperity, keep your liberty, keep your religion. Why, you're an extremist terrorist. Why, you're a racist. Why, you're a conspiracy theorist. You're paranoid because you don't like all the power being massed around you and all the checks and balances being taken and all the fines and fees and banker bailouts and the government funding Al-Qaeda. You're the problem. America, you only give a 6% approval rating to Congress because you're out of step. You're weird. You should love Congress. Upwards of 90% in major polls believe Kennedy was killed by a conspiracy with the government. 90% of you are out of touch. You're crazy. The government and the mainstream media. 90% of you are wrong. 94% of you that don't like Congress, you're a sick terrorist. And the government is watching you, and it knows best, and it's got the police and the bureaucrats and the psychologists and the psychiatrists and the media people, and the church is bought off, and they're going to point their finger at you and tell the 94%, you're bad, you're bad. Gaslighting would be like if you'd been on hold for an hour to get on the show because a guest has come on or we've gotten behind, and I went on air and said, oh, we've had callers holding 5 minutes. We better go to them. You go, no, I've been holding an hour. And I go, no, you haven't.
Hey, Alex. Hey.
I hear somebody talking.
Oh, it's just me, John. Just running the board here.
All right, well, stop talking.
I'm not talking, Alex. I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I'm not interrupting your show.
Stop interrupting the show.
Hey, buddy. I'm not interrupting it. Let's be pals.
All right, that's enough, John.
All right, but I'll be back.
But in true gaslighting, you would say, there's no one talking. You're mentally ill, Alex.
There's no one talking, Alex.
I'm just talking to myself.
You're hearing things.
I'm hearing things.
There's nobody here.
You know, there's real psychology in this country, and there is a lot to offer from psychology. You can learn a lot from Carl Jung, you name it. A lot of stuff I've read Sigmund Freud said, you know, has some real validity. But it's just a lens to look at the world, try to understand how people operate. It isn't the end-all, be-all, but the state-run systems of it are truly oppressive on their face, and the establishment is gaslighting America. They're telling you there's no world government, there's no corporate welfare, there's no corruption, nothing's rigged, that's a conspiracy theory, that's an extremist thing, that's a dangerous thing. It was like when Nightline was here a couple years ago. He was like, you believe there's a secret plan to set up a world government. The host of ABC Nightly News was the guy who was here doing the interview. Right here. I'm sitting here after the show. He's right there. And I went, no, I can show you the Council on Foreign Relations, talking about a planetary corporate world government run by finance bankers and finance capital. I can show you UN statements. And he goes, really? You could show me that? So we go out there, I pull up the clips, and he goes, that's a different global government that Ban Ki-moon's talking about than you're talking about. That's a different global government that the British Prime Minister is talking about that you're talking about. That global government or global governance is just working together. And I go, with global taxes, with global surveillance, global military, global standardization of zoning laws. And he just laughed at me. Then, as I said, we went to dinner. He was really nice. Forget his name. Who's the host of it? He's a guy. He's got black hair. Brown. I went with him and his camera people to eat at Fogo de Chao. We had dinner for 2 hours, had a couple glasses of wine. He was real nice, has a family, and just said, basically, you're on your side of the line, I'm on my side. Just point blank, I'm a soldier of the system, and was nice to me and actually liked me. But he works for them. And they put out reports that there is no world government. And will look at you with a straight face like you're crazy as it's openly being set up. This is what I'm sick of.
Let me see your identification.
You don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see his identification.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
He can go about his business.
You can go about your business.
Move along.
That's what's happened to the American people. But it's not Obi-Wan Kenobi, a good guy, doing it. They've been in a trance, but now they're starting to wake up, and 94% in the latest poll, I know I harp on this, but it really just hit me today, 94% don't like Congress. Because that's nameless, faceless. Most Americans don't even know who their Congress person is, man or woman. So they see that as the government, the Capitol building. Now, they personalize Obama and make him have a relationship with him, you know, like he's their favorite soap opera actor or something, and mainly women like him, but they're even, you know, getting mad at him, so he's got low 30s approval rating now, even with his idiot supporters. But they'll move on to a new puppet. The point is that the public actually isn't that stupid. They just don't know how much trouble they're in. They just think it's a bunch of corrupt liars up there. No, 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 no. It's not a bunch of corrupt liars up there. It's a bunch of control freak, vicious, anti-human people. Because what I've learned is control freaks, liars, fraudsters. My dad used to always tell me this as a child. I know what he was talking about. He'd say, son, there are just bad people in the world who would rather kill you for $1 than make $1 million with you fair and square. They would rather steal from you because they like dominating you, they like hurting you, they like cheating you, they like taking advantage of you because it's their nature. And you need to learn, because we're good people and we aren't corrupt and we don't lie, that people are going to come after you thinking you're a mark. So don't think everybody's like you. And then he would go on and say to me, you see that little meth head or that little crackhead drug addict over there? He's only 4.5 feet tall because he's been on drugs since he was a little kid. Don't use drugs. By the way, the government ships in most of the drugs, and they mix all sorts of poison into it. I mean, I think back to my dad basically was the Alex Jones before me. And he would sit there and explain it all to me. He'd say, that's who you got to worry about. That person will shoot you or kill you because they have nothing to lose. They're the most dangerous people out there because they have nothing to lose. They're scum. Don't hang around scum because they like seeing good people get hurt. And even though I knew those lessons then and then learned them, I still go through that today because I'm so trusting. And so even though I know all this, I personally make mistakes as well. None of us are perfect. It's like the end of Carlito's Way. I'll give the movie away. He's gotten out of prison after a decade. He was a former made gangster, a part of his mafia group, played by Al Pacino. He's wanting to go straight, but his old buddy, the lawyer that got him out of prison early, brings him back in. So it's a bad friend that destroys him and kills some gangsters, some Italian-made men, and now they're coming after him. But when he's about to get away with the money and with his beautiful girlfriend at the train station, he's gotten away from the mob and beaten them, guess who kills him? The little low-level scumbag, local thug that wanted to make his name by killing a famous gangster. And Benny Blanco from the Bronx shoots him 3 times in the stomach. And you know why? It was because he was kind to the little gutter rat. He didn't kill him when he caught the other guy trying to kill him. And so because he didn't crush the evil up front, he was destroyed by it. And that's the story of this country. Because it turns out he was really a good guy and a moral guy. Kind of the Tony Montana character that he plays as Scarface. The same person thrust into bad environment, thrust into bad circumstances, that ends up dominating because he is a good person. And that's so true. Those archetypes ring true. Those are popular archetypes because they are true. That a good person forced to do vicious things is always more powerful than the evil. That's why the evil always seeks to pull down the good man, the good woman, because they don't like you. I don't like you. My friend doesn't like you either. I have the death sentence on 12 systems. Oh, here, let me get you something. You know, we're really sorry. No, you'll be dead, to quote Star Wars. Again, another archetype. That's exactly how it is. The two dirtbag scumbags don't like the good-looking, upright, clean, wholesome people that they can see have good souls, that they can see stand for goodness, that they can see have power, that they can see have the birthright of dominion on this planet. They want you dead. They want you gone. They want you destroyed because they don't like the light. You guys pull up the bar scene where the guy gets his arm cut off, just that one piece. Because that, my friends, illustrates everything through art, which is a reflection of reality. I mean, is it easier to the thugs to say, here, let me get you a beer. Let's be friends. Let me pay the pirate. What was the Rudyard Kipling quote about you keep paying the pirate? Pretty soon the price becomes too high. I'm not going to pay any of the pirates. And in my own personal life, I'm not going to pay anything to any pirates. If pirates get in my way, I'm going to run them over because they're attacking good people and they need to be dealt with. It is our responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, to stand up against evil. Because it will run rampant and take over the entire society, and it's done it. And there's a battle for the heart and soul in every police department, every state house, every schoolhouse, every factory, every office complex, every law firm, every farm, every ranch, every family, every church, every heart, every soul, every man, woman, and child. There is a battle going on right now for the heart and soul of humanity and our future. And a decision is being made right now. Evil is trying to take over. And they've bought off the churches to tell us it's a foregone conclusion that it's the end of the world. They've been saying that for 100 years. People in Nazi Germany thought it was the end of the world, and most Christians historically said, whether they were Catholic, Protestant, Seventh-day Adventist, it didn't matter. They followed Hitler's Romans 13 quote, his favorite passage on the radio, and they believed that it was the end of the world or God's will. Well, let me tell you, I've read my Bible, and I know what's written on my heart. God and the entire Bible is about people standing up against evil, standing up against Pharaoh, standing up against Herod, standing up against all the evil, the Philistines. It is not about handing your children over to the state and giving them to the fires of Moloch. And I will not be part of this. And I declare that the enemy's already attacked us, so I don't declare war. I declare that we are in defense of humanity. We are in defense of civilization. We are in defense of due process. We are in defense of common sense. We want justice. I want justice. And there's never a perfect justice in this world because we're flawed. But in that is our greatness. There is reaching for greatness and that animating contest that is the great test of being alive on this planet. So we are losing all of our blessings. We are being scientifically shut down. Our economy is being shut down. All of the systems are being shut down. And we have to recognize the globalists are doing it premeditatedly. What is gaslighting? It's a form of mental abuse in which false information is presented with the intent of making a victim doubt his or her own memory, perception, or sanity. A re-education camp's like a giant gaslighting facility where they all torture and beat people and get people to get scared and agree with the system and say you're wrong and gang up on you in peer pressure. Instances, that's political correctness. Instances may range simply from the denial by an abuser that previous abuse incidents ever occurred, up to the staging of bizarre events by the abuser with the intention of disorienting the victim. The term gaslighting comes from the play Gaslight and its film adaptations. I want to do a film review of that for the Nightly News in the next few days. The term is now also used in clinical and research literature. And it's literally punching somebody in the nose and then saying, I didn't punch you in the nose, and then having 5 people go, we didn't punch you in the nose? You're crazy. It wasn't tyranny what happened at Waco. It wasn't tyranny at Ruby Ridge. It's not tyranny to have TSA grab your child's genitals while the government funds Al-Qaeda publicly. It's not tyranny to have naked body scanners that all the studies show give you cancer. It's not tyranny to have glyphosate in all the major water supplies giving you cancer, growing breast cancer. On record, it grows breast cancer. That's not debate. That's 100% proven scientific fact, that it is a pure estrogen mimicker and in women grows breast tumors. One of the biggest reasons. But nobody wants to just give more money to try to find a cure for it. You like trying to give more money to find a cure for Chicago gunshot wounds. We don't know where the gunshot wounds are coming from. We don't care. We don't even care if bullets did it. We just want to know how to cure gunshot wounds. Just wave a wand and to fix the gunshot wounds, not find out why it's the murder capital of the world, even though guns are banned. That's gaslighting, folks. The whole thing is a giant hoax. Nightline here going, there's no world government hoax. That's your theory. There's no secret government experimentation. And I'd list like 10 examples. They go, well, that was years ago. No, actually, they just admitted it again. Well, you know, Alex, boy, you really are paranoid. There were stories in 1937, 38, 39 about Hitler and what he was doing, and it was in the newspapers that it was just theories and fear-mongering and witch hunts. Herr Hitler is really getting Germany going, Time magazine said. There's whole books written on that. And then there were all the stories about Stalin. They wouldn't admit Stalin was doing anything till the 50s. There was denials when Stalin was killing 2-3 times what Hitler was. He was Uncle Joe up until the 50s. He was our helper. The second greatest mass murderer in history behind Mao Zedong. But let's go to an example of the thugs don't care. They just want to attack a pure young man. They just want to bring down anybody who's honorable because their souls are so ugly, they want to stamp you out. Here's the clip.
He doesn't like you.
I'm sorry.
I don't like you either. You just watch yourself. We're wanted men. I have the death sentence on 12 systems.
I'll be careful.
You'll be dead.
Enough torture from Alex Jones. I want to come back, hit a few of the other big top stories. Open move. How are they going to get rid of internet freedom? We have the article when we return on the other side of this transmission. This little break coming up. And please remember, I get so busy covering the news, I don't plug stuff. Our continued existence is absolutely hinged on your financial support to continue what we're doing and expand. Please mid-air refuel us. We've got the best water filters, pro-gun T-shirts, books, films, from homeschooling to non-GMO to the police state to the New World Order to the occult. PrisonPlanet.tv. PrisonPlanet.tv. Memberships there. InfoWarsStore.com. Or call toll-free 888-253-3139 or InfoWarsLife.com. We're running a special discount for a limited time on the Survival Shield Nascent Iodine. Stay with us.
What are you doing here, Alex? There's no world government.
You know, guys, I'm getting something in my feed in there. I'm hearing something. Who is that?
It's just me, John. I'm in your head. And,
No, you're not in my head. You're out there in the control room talking over me. Stop doing it.
You're crazy. You're crazy.
Stop taking over the radio show, okay?
Hey, bud, let's just do a family-friendly family show today because there's no world government. Nobody's out to get us.
Okay. And you're just going to ignore history, I guess?
There's no history.
And I guess you think Common Core teaching 2 + 2 = 5 is good and not a sign that the government wants to totally brainwash and brain damage the kids and screw them up fundamentally.
Well, I think the kids will be fine with the brainwashing. And so will you.
All right, stop talking over me.
I'm not talking over you. You're crazy.
You were on in an earlier segment taking over.
No.
Now you're back.
This is the first time I'm here. Your memory's gone.
No, you were on 15 minutes ago. Stop it.
I'll be back. You'll see.
I'm sure you will. Again, that's an illustration of gaslighting, ladies and gentlemen. And it works on the general public because they've been raised, the government's the authority from birth, and even if the government's lying, we've got to do what it says, learned helplessness. Well, I'm done. And everybody I know, almost everybody, is making a break now with the system and realizes it's a fraud. Now you've got to realize you have power. That's the next level. Here's the toll-free number, again, for first-time callers. What do you make of the U.S. being surpassed by China as the economic power? That was all done by design. What do you make of East Ukraine slips from Kiev's grasp? The Russians are now sending in medical evac teams and massing more troops. It doesn't look good. We're going to talk about that. Here's the big internet news I'm going to cover before we go to your calls when I start the next hour. This is out of Reuters. You guys pull me Watson's article about Chinese-style censorship that Obama wants on the internet yesterday. I want to dovetail that. I told you this a few years ago. How are they going to sell so-called Internet 2, the new Internet fast lanes that are, quote, safe, and you've got a thumbprint to get on, and then they'll phase it into everything soon? That's their admitted plan. Internet 2, 15 years ago, I read their own documents. They're public. They have consortium meetings each year in Tokyo, London, Austin. And they say the old Internet will be phased out this way. It'll be a pay-per-play Internet. And now the FCC is announcing that, the end of net neutrality. It's all happening. They're making their moves on every single front. They're making their move on every single front. U.S. FCC chief details pledge to police to have Internet fast lanes because the police need their own Internet fast lanes to be in emergencies. It's for emergencies. We need to spy on you for emergencies. See, remember Homeland Security got caught putting in those systems in Oregon that we broke, that Drudge carried a few months ago? We need to do a new article, how they have their own cell tower hubs to grab all your data. And they call it their own Internet fast lane. They're setting up their own Internet that they'll then force you onto. You understand that? And then phase out your rights that way and tax you and trace you and not let you get to Infowars.com. This is the admitted plan. They've done this in China. They're doing this in areas of Europe. They're doing it in Australia. It's happening. The slow evolution, the new secret trade deal. Now, Genesis phone system, well, their delay is out. So we're going to use our system. That's why we have a backup. We have a delay here. Got to do that per FCC rules. This is really the FCC takeover of the Internet. That's what this is, bare minimum. This bare minimum. FCC takeover of the Internet, not with a bang, but with a whimper. Toll-free number, it's the Sunday number, 877-789-Alejandro. That's 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-ALEX. Hour number 2, straight ahead. Become a member of PrisonPlanet.tv today.
Thank you for listening.
11 people can share the membership, and we need the support. Support the original, powerful, organic, true Internet. Your phone calls are coming up in the next segment. We're talking about the U.S. being surpassed by China next year as the main economic power worldwide. That's been done by design. The big news is U.S. FCC chief details pledge to police to have Internet fast lanes. That's FCC-controlled new Internet 2 that is openly a surveillance grid, so the police have live Wi-Fi video feeds everywhere from their drones and the rest of it. But it's being done to keep us safe, so we need to do that. And they're already building Internet 2 with the police. Will you guys print me Mikhail Phelan's articles from a few months ago about police caught stealing cell phone data? I think was the headline, but really it was putting in their own grid. It was those articles. Remember those? And they were huge viral videos and articles. And the police responded saying, you're right, it is illegal what we're doing. It was a Homeland Security grant. We're going to turn them off. But then they didn't turn them off. They just did the military tactic of saying, we turned them off. The threat's over. Go back to sleep. Like a wolf's creeping up to the sheep. The sheep sees the wolf 10 feet away, and the wolf goes, I'm not a wolf. I'm not a wolf. Go back to eating. I'm friendly. Let me give you a back rub. Let me just get my teeth around your neck. Then they start shaking the sheep, blood everywhere. Next sheep sees it and goes, oh, I just gave him a back rub. You know, that red stuff everywhere, that's good. That's a, you know, he's fine. Let me get my teeth around your neck. You know, there's no tyranny. Everything's fine. Everything's wonderful. And if you guys can't find that headline, just go ask Gucciardi and he can find it. Or just I'll do it. I can't remember the exact headline, so it'll be an issue. It's like police suspend use of There it is. Exclusive. Government documents reveal DHS domestic spy takeover. And I think that was the second article in the group. But, yeah, print me that one. And we got all their documents from our source inside the Seattle city government. We'll just leave it to you that way. And it's totally illegal, totally criminal, totally evil. But, hey, we got to have our own new internet for the police. I mean, it's for the police. No, they're going to force the entire internet onto this, and this is just part of it. And the FCC has never had jurisdiction over the internet, and they do not need jurisdiction over the internet and over cable TV and over movies. It's over broadcast, and it is a bureaucratic power grab, and we need to strangle it in its crib. Kill this attempt. Just like they tried to this year pass a law to shield journalists that every analyst looked at, every law professor looked at and said, this ends the shield for journalists unless you're knighted by the federal government, by a panel set up that Obama runs that's going to go around inspecting everyone that the Boston Herald last week called free speech killing and chilling. Free speech killing and chilling, not me. I mean, it's all, folks, they are lined up like Hitler on the border with Poland getting ready to totally invade, okay? You think all this tyranny is a big deal now? This is just the warm-up phase as the frontline PSYOP soldiers of the globalists size everybody up, get the chemicals in the water to size us up, get us softened up. They are setting it up, ladies and gentlemen. Authorizing the domestic army PSYOPs, CIA PSYOPs, turning their Media Matters operatives loose. And that's why you're going to see attempted attacks on Infowars.com and anybody else that's real. And we know where the attacks are coming from. And when those attacks come, we already have it all planned to be released and detailed and documented. So we're ready for when the enemy attacks to have that magnify what we've really done and actually expose their whole operations. We're aware of 3 different operations to infiltrate, undermine, and try to stop our operation. What do you think? We don't expect that to happen? Well, we play dumb with these operatives so we can get all the intel on them? I'm coming in. I'm coming in over the main target. I can see the flak clouds. I'm going to steer to the center, and I'm going to release my payload directly on the enemy, and nothing's going to stop us. We're going in. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central, 12 noon, 3 p.m. Eastern. We are here live. I am your host, Alex Jones. And we're using our phone system today, totally producing the show out of Austin, Texas. And the toll-free number to join us is 877-789-2539. We are going to be going to your phone calls here in just a few minutes. But I first wanted to get Paul Joseph Watson on the broadcast for several reasons. I got a lot of great writers, Kurt Nemo, you name it. They all do a fabulous job. But Paul Watson probably writes 3 or 4 articles a day. I'm not even cracking the whip to get him to do that. He lives liberty, joining us from London. But a lot of times the articles he writes end up getting picked up by DrudgeReport.com because Drudge really likes his writing, I guess, and also by a lot of other publications. So I'm going to ask Paul to also do a video on this. And I'm also going to ask my other writers to get on this beat. And I'm going to ask the Nightly News to cover this because InfoWars by itself, Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, may be able to take this integrated group of news reports and get it out to the public so there can be a national debate about this like we've done on so many other issues so that we can try to stop what's happening. Now, and then I'm going to go to your phone calls after that. When I tell you that we covered this 15 years ago, it's not to toot our horn. It's to let you know that this is a fact, what you're about to hear. And that I'm going to give you some of the breadcrumbs to follow so you can go look this up for yourself very easily. I'm talking to journalists and others out there as well, and members of Congress that listen, so that we can formulate a plan to beat this. Really, not a lot of other folks are doing this up until now, so we need to do it. Sometimes it doesn't even mean that you're that smart or you're that great. You're just willing to do it. It's kind of like I wrote the article that took me weeks to write. I forget the exact title, but I was I think it was Patriot Act destroys 7 of the 10 Bill of Rights. An analysis. And I had constitutional lawyers on later who said, no, this is an excellent analysis. And it spurred the movement to then get hundreds of jurisdictions, and I think it was like 20-something states, to pass laws saying we won't comply with the Patriot Act and we'll arrest anybody trying to carry out the Patriot Act because it's totally unconstitutional in our state. And that's an example of not bragging. That's an example of saying, I won the Project Censored Award, 2nd place that year, a year after that article came out. It got republished in newspapers all over the place. Lawyers went and looked it up because the lawyers are busy all trying to have as many clients as they can, try to make money. So constitutional lawyers, people went and read my analysis, and they wrote blueprints off that confirming what I'd said. Because I would go to the subsection, I'd go to the U.S. Code, I would show sneak and peek, I would show no warrants. I mean, I would show what it really said. Because no one was saying what the Patriot Act was really doing then. We had to discredit that piece of legislation. And so I'm saying that so that other media people, there it is, total police state takeover, the secret Patriot Act 2 destroys what's left of American liberty, a brief analysis of the Domestic Security Enhancement Act of 2003, also known as the Patriot Act 2. That's another one. That's another analysis that I wrote about Patriot Act 2, but it's good as well. And then I sourced all my claims and showed the subsections. And that's a press release. I paid to have the press release put out nationwide. I think like $2,000 to have it put in so many newspapers and so many press releases, so many faxes. And that was back even before there was such a glut of information like there is now. It would really have an effect. Those press releases don't really do that much now, but we still do them sometimes. But I digress. I want to go to your phone calls. I've got Paul Watson on the line because I really want him to do an article today about this, tomorrow about it. We wrote an article that went viral a few years ago, 6, 7 years ago, about MySpace-type internet sites are the Trojan horse of internet takeover. And we explained that MySpace and then Facebook and other sites that were coming were giant platforms like YouTube in the future, where only those big platforms will be given free internet access. Everything else will be in a slow lane. And then the fast lane, you will have to waive your rights, thumbprint, biometrically ID. You'll be able to be taxed, traced, tracked, controlled. And then they will phase out the old free Wild West internet that they've already released the keys to and the back doors to allow it to be destroyed and fall apart. They can punch a few buttons, folks, and bring down large parts of the internet. It was supposedly designed to not be like that. DARPA designed it so that other people on the outside can't take it down, but that they can take it down. And then Google, Microsoft, Apple, a handful of universities, Cyber Command, Homeland Security, the NSA, and Northcom, they all have, it's less than 20 keys. This is admitted, by the way. And they control the rings of Mordor to be able to actually take the web down. But they can selectively take it down, just like the communist Chinese do. There's the headline. MySpace is a Trojan horse of internet censorship media elite. Last gasp of effort to save crumbling empire. 2006. It's one of the first articles DrudgeReport.com ever linked to with us. On our cruddy-looking old InfoWars site. 8 years ago, Nemo updated it, made it look great. Now it's an old design. We are very close to new designs. We tried a bunch. We're coming out with a good one the next week. So get ready. The site looks not too good today because it's 8 years old. Looked great 8 years ago. We're about to update it. That's another side issue. PrisonPlanet.tv looks updated and modern. PrisonPlanet.com looks more modern. Side issue. I'm just talking about what we're doing. So here's my assignment to Watson, to the reporters, to the other great reporters. We all need from different angles, and the next issue of the magazine needs to be about this. You know, the death of the free internet is here. Fight for the internet or it's dead. The next magazine needs to be on this. Not the one coming out this week, but in a few days that the truck's about to deliver, and the digital version as well. But next month's needs to be. Not the May issue, but the June issue needs to be on, do you want to keep the internet free or do you want to pay taxes and be more surveilled and have the public NSA Internet-ification of the Internet happen. And the way they're going to do it is claiming Internet security after the NSA released the encryption keys 3 weeks ago to the Internet with Heartbleed. It had been out for 2 years, but they announced the codes and where you could get them 2 weeks ago. And this is all a setup, and it's now come out in publications, in CNET, that, oh, the government knew about Heartbleed, let it happen. They didn't know, they did it. And they did Stuxnet, and I told you that first. And it's called the FBI runs most of the worms and most of the takedowns and most of the backdoors that the criminals also exploit, so they can later just blame the criminals. So the whole thing's compromised. They're getting ready to shut down and cyber attack the old Internet and only let their new Internet operate. And then when it comes back up, after a few months, you won't remember InfoWars, or most people won't. In fact, InfoWars will get bigger out of this, because we're kind of last man standing. Any attempt to shut us down will only make us explode like a beach ball 50 feet under the water when it goes to the surface. But all the medium sites, the small sites, the big giant floods of activism that you see, that's going to be shut down. We're going to skip this network break. This is so important that I'll spend, $3,000 to skip, $4,000 to skip this break. I don't care. We're doing it. We're going to Watson. Here's how they're going to do it. A part of a constellation of attacks. They're putting in NSA fiber and Google fiber everywhere that's hooked into police snooper boxes that grab all your data out of the air. And we put that article up on Infowars.com. We broke it months ago with secret documents out of Washington State given to us from inside the city that was illegal. It turned out the police were doing illegal stuff, grabbing everybody's data without warrants, and they shut it off, they claimed. But it was part of a federal plan. That ties into this. White House wants Chinese-style ID system for Internet users. They announced that 2 days ago in the National Strategy for Trusted Identities in Cyberspace. Who's going to administer it publicly? Because the NSA and Northcom have a bad name. U.S. FCC chief details pledge to police to Internet fast lanes. Oh, they've got to have lifetime HD video and face scanning and license reading and their own Internet that never goes down, that's built into government and university backbones. That's been the Internet 2 cover plan for 15 years since I learned of it in 1999, reading from the Internet 2 meeting that they had in a major city, I forget which one, and someone that attended it sent me the 100-and-something page booklet about, well, you can go to Internet 2's own website. It says, the Internet is dead. We're going to get rid of the Internet and force you onto the new one. We're going to tax everybody, big corporations. It's going to be like cable, pay to play. Remember I warned you of all this? Oh, it'll never happen, Alex. And now it's mainstream news that, again, Boston Herald, new government agency to watchdog hate speech in broadcast and Internet is chilling, and free speech killing. And I mean, it's just going on and on. They're trying to license journalists. It's all happening, okay? It's coming. It's here. And if we don't run around and get upset about this and counter this, we already killed SOSPA CISPA. Now they got a secret treaty that got leaked, this Asian-Pacific partnership, where it says that the corporations will say if you can be on the Internet or not. They're given the keys to the Internet. The keys are being given to the UN right now. All this is happening now. See, people say, Alex, you jump around a lot. That's because I'm smart. They train you, and the psychologists and everybody say you're supposed to hold one thought in your head and be like an insect and focus on one thing at a time. If you just look at an article where they're telling you how great this is, you'll never know it's bad. You've got to look at the whole way they're attacking and undermining systems with Internet taxes, Internet tracking, Internet data mining, Internet control, new Internet 2. So this is how they're going after it. And I need Paul Watson. We're going to your calls. I skipped the break. Dirk, Michigan Patriot, Les, Scott, Matt, Steve, Jeff, Bud, Tony, Chad. I'm going to all of you here in just a moment. I need not just Paul Watson, but you out there to make YouTube videos about this. I need you out there. Paul Watson wrote an article in 2005 that Google put out a press release to shareholders saying, we're listening to everybody's computer and have their video cameras on, watching them, and if we see a dog, we have dog food ads pop up. And then we started noticing, just in the last 2 years, they started doing it, where if you talk about dog food or talk about wanting a stand-up desk, but you're not even typing it in, within an hour, a stand-up desk pops up. And the contract says they're allowed to listen to you. Do you understand the magnitude? And people go, there's not enough people to listen. It's AI computers. Please listen to me. And people called in going, you're a kook. Even when I had the press release from Google.com. Okay, they're coming for the internet. And by the way, that means you think they're only shipping our jobs to China, shutting down our power plants, raising taxes where you can't compete, Obamacare, all the rest of it to shut us down. You think that's anything, folks? They're going to shut off all the small businesses from the main internet. You're going to have to pay exorbitant prices, a corporate tax to get on it, just like Obamacare is a corporate tax, and the big globalists are going to be exempt from that, and they're being subsidized by the NSA spending more than $50 billion a year with university money and Homeland Security police grants to build the local systems under police grants and under Threat Fusion Center grants. We're talking billions per city, folks. They spent $4 billion in Boston on cameras in the last 5 years. It wasn't for cameras. It was for AI systems that then hook into the super fiber from Google and AT&T, which then processes it at the NSA centers, which are Google and AT&T. Remember, the CIA and NSA are buying the servers at Amazon. Oh, they're working with Google at the secret NASA base. They are the NSA. They are the corporate Borg. It is a AI takeover. It already happened. You understand that? The internet's already self-aware. It's a neural interface with humans. It's a machine-human grid with 5 billion people estimated to be online right now, of 7.5 billion, giving your thoughts and everything you know into the machine, you literally giving your essence to it. It's already aware. It's already taking over. It is driven by the globalist, interfacing it with the keys to control it. It was forged by them as a ring of total control, wedding you to the end of humanity. Do you understand the emergency transmission? Is it clear? Do you read me? I know it's fantastic. It's all public, but I told you about it before it happened. So when I tell you other stuff that isn't admitted yet, you better listen to Alex Jones. Do you understand that? I have analyzed their entire operation. They are public about it. All you got to do is believe Bill Joy. All you got to do is believe Bill Gates. All you've got to do is believe Prince Charles and John P. Holdren and Eric Holder and Ray Kurzweil, and every single one of them knows the plan. They're in on it. They're taking over. And you and I don't have a place in that future. We're going to your calls, but Paul Joseph Watson, I know you're on phone. You didn't have time to get to Skype. Do you hear what I'm saying? We've got to create master articles that aren't even written like news. We'll link to all the proof, that are emergency warnings. We need a sense of urgency, a sense of dramatic energy that represents the threat we're facing.
Well, what people don't realize, Alex, is that the Chinese proposed a similar program to this White House strategy for trusted identities in cyberspace back in 2007. It was for a centralized ID system.
They were honest in 2007 in Australia. They called it the Chinese plan.
Yeah, and it's basically government permission to use the internet based on your personal identities, the complete abolition of anonymity. It was rejected in communist China for being too authoritarian. 2 years later, Joe Lieberman comes in and says we need to censor the internet like China does in times of crisis, which of course means whenever they want to crush dissent when there's about to be a riot. And then shortly after that, they come in with this national strategy for trusted identities. It's basically replacing all your passwords for all the services you use on the internet with a centralized government ID, a biometric ID card.
Absolutely, for the privilege of communicating, the privilege of the new private corporate internet that we've all paid for, and then 3 times, just like YouTube, if they say you've done something wrong, no appeal, you are cut off from commerce, put in a non-electronic ghetto to literally starve and have your head clubbed in, or put in a forced labor camp.
And it's first going to be for government services like food stamps and welfare. Then they're going to introduce it for other things. I mean, there have been academic studies recently that prove the comments below news articles have a massive impact on whether people believe the actual content of the article.
So they're getting rid of the comments.
Getting rid of the comments. So once you've got that centralized government ID that gives you permission not only to use their services, but merely to comment on the internet, then they can control and police thought crimes that way, such as, you know, criticism of immigration policy, which we now fear could be in this new hate crime act of 2014.
Well, it's all being announced, Watson, so we need to integrate it into a bullet point article and just hammer it and hammer it and hammer it and hammer it so people understand what we're facing. Do you agree with me?
Exactly. There's also something else that ties into it, which is a video report which I just did. Man arrested for criticizing Islam. Political leader charged with hate crime for quoting Winston Churchill. This is a mainstream political leader in Britain. Got up in public with a bullhorn, quoted Winston Churchill about Islam, wasn't racist in any way, wasn't inciting violence. One person in the crowd complained. The police arrested him, charged him with an aggravated hate crime for quoting the British Prime Minister who supposedly defeated totalitarianism in Britain, and now they arrest him for quoting Winston Churchill. Absolutely chilling.
And of course, his quote was, he was saying there's elements historically of Islam that are barbaric. You could say that about any group. And then every time we criticize authoritarian Islam, people comment on the side, how dare you be anti-Islam? Listen, here's the deal. Even if we were anti-Islam, which we're not, it's our free speech right. But they arrested the guy that made the little short movie about the Prophet Muhammad, and it's the same deal where now they banned Michael Savage from England because he criticizes radical Islam, and you can take the extreme of Sterling and the Clippers, kicking him out of his job and his ownership. That can be extended now to using the word bossy. If Michelle Obama is offended, you get made homeless. This is Soviet-style tyranny. Paul Watson, thank you so much. I want a maximum push on this. This FCC is the FCC takeover of the Internet, to hand it over to the NSA grid, taxation control. We've got to warn everybody. We've got to make a big deal out of this.
Okay, we'll get it done.
And, they're moving with that Pacific partnership that's got the secret documents that came out. Thank you, Paul Watson. Now, I'm going to race through your calls when we come back. Dirk, Michigan Patriot, Les, right down the line. I'm going to go to you. 1 minute, go to the next person. I really want to go to a bunch of calls. We're going to be taking your phone calls. Briefly before we go to break, because I just skipped the break, we need your support spreading the word about this broadcast. That's number one, because the number one mission is get the word out. Number two is fund the reporters, the camera people, the bandwidth, the equipment, the building, and the new projects. We sell the best products at the lowest prices, whether they be dash cams, high-quality water filters, incredible supplements, incredible pro-liberty T-shirts to spread the word, meet like-minded people. Shop with the good guys. Check it out today. And I want to thank all of you for your support. InfoWarsStore.com. InfoWarsStore.com. We have high-quality survival storable food from the folks at My Patriot Supply. It's all there. A huge market center, and a lot of it made in America or in Canada. And we also get stuff from Mexico from the Chiapas folks. A lot of great things. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. Tosh Plumlee just called us. He's been a CIA contractor, extremely famous, from Vietnam right through the Bay of Pigs. Before that, that's how long he's been flying. And you say, how can he still be doing that, even though he testified to major committees in Congress about government corruption, you name it? Well, there's a light side of the CIA and the FBI, you name it, left over from when they weren't as bad. And he's protected to a certain extent, and he's given intel, and he's also still allowed to fly weapons. And he told us, see, I don't toot my horn, folks, because that's all I would do, unless I have to tell you we know what we're talking about. I remember he was on, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, and he broke down all the Benghazi stuff, the emails, the White House knew, where the guns were being sent. Now all those emails have been released. The Justice Department just subpoenaed him, but only to find out what he knows and gag him. And he's freaking out. And they're saying, how did you know that? Basically, national security violation. So they're coming after a whistleblower. I mean, what you think I bring Tosh Plumlee on? People don't know his name, folks. He's like super famous if you know about intelligence agencies and things. Flying into war zones all over the world. I mean, he's a living fossil. He's been flying weapons since 1957. How many years is that? Flying weapons and black ops all over the world since that's 57 years. That's longer than that. The point is that I got Skousen coming up. You know what? Skousen will be fine with it. Let's see if we can get Plumlee. I said get him on tomorrow. This is too important. See if you can get Plumlee on the last 15 minutes or so. Skousen will be all right with that. Because this Benghazi thing is really big. See, I say I want to go to your calls, and my head is just spinning at this point. And see, my brain, why didn't I think get Tosh Plumlee on when everything he said turned out to be true? And we've had, like, the biggest Benghazi whistleblower on. And by the way, I'm only alive because of your prayers and that there are good people in government. The criminals in government are afraid to kill us or set me up because they know that people will blow the whistle. I'm too big a target. But I've gotten to the point, and I've been told this, that it doesn't matter. Sometimes you get so big, you got to be dealt with. Well, that's just the way it is then, isn't it? Just like Tosh Plumlee said. He loves his grandkids. And he's old enough where he just doesn't care anymore. And he said that he basically delivered, he can't say all of it, troops and weapons, including what he called high-energy weapons, to Al-Qaeda. Now that's all public. And that he talked to the other pilots. I mean, when we've interviewed him, ladies and gentlemen, he's been on the tarmac leading groups of aircraft. And he's like, I told you I got to go. And during the break, all right, I got to go. I mean, and they're taking off lines of weapons. I mean, the guy is calling us as this is going on. And they're all totally angry. You saw the troops, including majors and people, showing their ribbons, saying, I will not fight for Al-Qaeda in Syria, Infowars.com. I mean, do you think the military likes it? Do you think the special ops people like going to airfields? And see, the government was so arrogant under Obama. They were having the troops and the mercenaries actually deliver the weapons to Al-Qaeda, who would smart off at them and say things like, I'm going to kill you later. Remember they were in Libya holding up signs saying next Syria and then next Tel Aviv, next New York. We're going to kill you with these weapons. And now it's in the news they've got heat-seeking ground-to-air missiles. I mean, imagine the troops are having to deliver weapons to Al-Qaeda who are smarting off at them. I mean, you imagine the disconnect with the Obama people? Because none of these people have ever been in combat. They're just a bunch of lying, oily scum that may know how to run Google algorithms and rig the stock market and rig everything. But it's like all these politicians go in and go, what's a scanner? They don't know it. They all have butlers, folks, their whole lives, most of them. They don't know anything. They think they can send U.S. Special Forces to train Al-Qaeda in Western Iraq and that the military is not going to flip out and go, Alex Jones is right. It's gotten to the point where Joseph Farah's in here, who didn't believe me, 10 years ago about Al-Qaeda and the CIA, and they're going, you're right, because it's all out in the open now. Because the globalists went too far. They think you're stupid. And I'm not going to go to the airport and sit there and have some idiot being radiated all day want to touch me to make sure I don't have a bomb. Give me a stinking break. I'm innocent until proven guilty, and your terror threat is fake and is a power grab. And I'm not putting up with it anymore. And nobody is. I mean, this is getting so ridiculous. What more are we going to put up with? I'm going to your phone calls. I'm shutting up. I'm going to move quick. I want to get to everybody before Skousen. And, I hear Plumlee every time he's on. He starts getting mad and starts going, I'm sick of this. I don't even want to have to even prove all this. These criminals. Because he's risking his life, folks. He's from Texas. And I'm sorry, that's how we act, old-fashioned Texans. We're nice as you can be out if you're out having a glass of iced tea with us, or we're out playing horseshoes or out riding around or doing whatever. But, man, we got to fight some tyrants. We're sick of it. And I know exactly why he starts getting mad and just starts, because he's got to risk his life because all these other cowards won't stand up. And it's not fun having to do this, but somebody's got to do it. And I'm not going to sit here and watch my country gutted by a bunch of criminals. People say, oh, man, that guy's weird. He gets angry. You're supposed to get mad. I'm sick of it. What is wrong with everybody? We're all in grave danger with criminals running things, ladies and gentlemen. These criminals hate good people's guts. You better figure that out right now. All right, and let's just go to Dirk in Tennessee. Dirk, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Skin that smoke wagon, Alex.
How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, man. I'm all over the map today, too. Just a couple of things. You said the world's going by at a fast pace right now. It couldn't go by any faster, could it?
No, it's all going into warp speed.
I mean, we've already forgot about Flight 307. No one even hear about that anymore.
Yeah, no one even cares anymore of the government. I mean, people care, but what do you do? They're all a bunch of crooks at the top. They get away with everything.
Exactly. But one thing I wanted to say, too, is about the glyphosate, or what do you call those lines?
Glyphosate, yeah, that's in the water supply.
They're telling nurserymen here in Tennessee that stuff's not too bad. You can almost drink it. Talking about Roundup. They're telling the glyphosate aren't, they're nothing. Don't worry about them.
When I was a kid and that stuff first came out and my dad had me doing the yard, he was a wily guy, but still bought into science, well, that will be good. And he's like, no, son, don't worry too much about getting that on your legs or whatever. When he had me out killing weeds, this stuff, they say you can drink it. That is a PR line. Yeah, you can drink it and your prostate will turn into a giant cancer and kill you. You can drink it and your breast will rot off.
No kidding, right? That's all I wanted. Good job today, buddy. We appreciate you.
God bless you. Yeah, it's just incredible. No, that's a PR line about Roundup. Glyphosate. What's that movie? I don't like his politics, but that movie's accurate, where he's a lawyer, George Clooney, and it's about Roundup, where the lawyer finally just can't be evil and be killing everybody with the Roundup, so he's going to settle the case and admit it's poison, even though because they have the data of it in the well water, and because he's talking to this girl who's lost her family from it. And he freaks out and starts telling the truth, so they kill him. And that's how it really works, folks. But let me tell you something. They can't get us all. You understand that? They can't kill us all. Let's go ahead and talk to Les in Missouri. Les, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Well, good morning.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for holding.
Thank you. I've been an industrial electrician. I'm retired now, so I've been around for a few years. And I have built machines in the United States, in huge factories, not only Ford, GM, Tyson, I've been around, and I've done them all over the United States. And you no sooner get done with them, and they say, well, tag them and break them down, because we're going to ship them. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And you know where they all went?
China.
And I've got a buddy that works for a large production company that does chickens, and he's been to China for the last year. And now USDA comes out and says, hey, guess what? We can ship chickens to China, and they can, remanufacture the chickens and bring them back to the United States. So, why is American people hell-bent on just being, slaves?
Well, they don't know to read and only buy chicken produced in the U.S. They don't have common sense, and we've all grown up in it, so it's been hard for me to move away from stuff made in China, but I've almost completely done it. Almost none of our products are made in China. We can't get a dash cam that isn't made in China. So the InfoWars dash cams are made there. We cannot get it. A bunch of stuff we sell is made in the U.S., or we buy it from indigenous people in Mexico or other areas. And pay a lot more because it's all been rigged. Again, China, not the Chinese people, they're being used, has been set up on record. The CFR said this 40 years ago to move everything there. That's the future takeover system. They're going to use sucking the Chinese dry to build the world government and shut down everybody else, just like they're sucking America dry to do the same thing. It's not helping the Chinese to do this. They're worse off.
My worst problem is like large companies like Walmart becoming so Chinese orientated. You know, chances are the reason the chickens are going to China and being slaughtered in China and bringing back is because Walmart can't control Tyson.
Well, that's right, and they're authorizing beef in from all over the world with basically no inspection, but they harass the living bonkers out of all the small meat packers, so they're basically all gone, literally all gone. And I've talked to people that tried to go back into meat packing, and it's just if you have one violation as a small outfit, you're shut down. You can literally ship rotting slop out of a big facility, and it's just all the inspectors have been told that you will let this stuff go out. I appreciate your call. Great points. This man, again, there's a few engineers left in the country, and all they're doing is building the factories to ship them to China, and we're done. It's over. And even MIT came out last year, you can type this in, and said the U.S. has lost the technology war. We can never reclaim it. It's been transferred to China and India. We sold our brainchild. We sold our infrastructure. It's gone. Only cutting taxes by 50+%. And basically arresting the people that run the Federal Reserve. I mean, if we stopped it all right now and said no to all the fake derivatives, but the bankers will just put the economy into a nosedive if we do that, hold us hostage like 2008. I mean, we are just hammered, folks. And a lot of people say, well, I'll just join the New World Order then. I'll just join the New World Order. There's not any slots in it, idiots. Everybody already sold out. And I'll use the porn analogy in an article I read in the Wall Street Journal years ago, and I've seen others since. You used to get $1 million a year if you were a top porn star. You really were a star in that sense that you were famous and made a lot of money in the 70s and 80s. Once video editing got cheap and all the young girls wanted to be stars and ran out there, women that look like Marilyn Monroe can't get more than $2,000 to do the most wild stuff you can imagine. So now they're not into porn as much, so the price is going back up. But it's an example. All you morons, and I'm talking to people that serve the system, not our listeners, who thought you'd sell out to evil and get ahead, you're idiots. Prosperity is what you get from a moral country. It's always been proven. Morality creates prosperity. Honor creates prosperity. But then it creates spoiled children and grandchildren. And then corruption comes in and cons the dumb grandkids. And then evil takes over. And then it sets up a police state so nobody can stop them. And then you go through hell again before you become a moral society again. People make fun of old-timers because most of those old-timers are dead now. Because they'd say, eat all your food. And you're really going to eat all that? And my grandfather... My dad's dad, I told the story 50 times. It's so powerful. Every time I saw him, when we go out to a restaurant or even eating, he would basically wait till everybody don't eat until he ate. Or he would, if he went to a cafeteria or restaurant, he never ordered food, and he ate what everybody didn't eat. And it was because he grew up in the Depression, even though they were upper class, and saw people, having to hunt to live. And then he went and saw people starving in Europe at the end of World War II. He was there during World War II, but after the starvation. And he told my dad, once you see starving kids, and we're going to see starving children. We're going to see mass death. They're going to release bioweapons, folks. I know what they're going to. We're screwed. Let me just tell you, if we don't repent right now and break with these people, it's over, okay? But all these spoiled brats, America throws away 40% of its food. And me included. I don't eat stuff in the refrigerator and let it rot. My mother grew up where they ate everything in their refrigerator. And she still lives like that. I'm a spoiled brat. I'm not up here on some high horse. I said I'd take your calls. I'm saying we've got to repent of what we've become. Pigs. Let's talk to Michigan Patriot in Michigan. Thanks for holding, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. Thank you for taking my call. I'm calling. First of all, I want to let you know you're not a kook. I'm calling because I follow you, and I'm extremely frustrated. I'm frustrated that all you see on mainstream media is this junk about the Clippers, and I feel like America's being distracted. It's being distracted from Lois Lerner, from what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on with Israel. all these different things that are going on right now, and you know, I'm hoping that we need to put a stop to it. We need to get people like Professor Griff on and give.
You know, I was watching, or it was a YouTube, but it was audio, like a 30 minutes of an hour-long show he did on Al Sharpton this morning, and I thought, get Professor Griff back on. Guys, can we get... Yeah, just get him next week or something for like an hour if he'll do it, or whenever he wants to. The video Skype's better. Or next time he's coming through town, thanks. Thank you so much, caller. I'm going to come back, go to Scott, Matt, Steve, Jeff, Bud, Tony, Chad, Curtis, and a bunch of others straight ahead. 2 more segments of calls, then Joel Skousen on for 45 minutes. Then we've got Tosh Plumlee, the CIA whistleblower on Benghazi. Let's talk to you right now. Scott in Illinois, thanks for calling in. Thanks for holding. You're on the air. I've talked about a lot of stuff. What'd you call in about today?
Oh, man, I just want to say thank you for letting me listen to your show for 55 minutes and 22 seconds longer than I could have south of Chicago. So if you need to know who I am or where I'm headed, talk to my buddies at the NSA. They'll let you know. But I got to be honest with you. 20 years ago, a buddy of mine gave me a book. It was called Who's Who, the Elite. Scared the living bejeebies out of me. But then I saw something on the web the other day after a buddy gave me a card of yours. Didn't even know who you were. He gave me a card, and he checked it out and looked at a nice little ceremony that was going on in the forests of California and connected the dots. And, oh, my God, you're right. So there's some interesting stuff going on. It is a worldwide government, and you know what? Sometimes you just got to bend over and take it because that's where we're headed. And I appreciate what you're saying. But the problem I have is very few want to listen. And even if you do get the message out, very few care because they want to go back to their happy world, their all-you-can-eat buffets, and they're watching sports centers.
I agree with you, but there's a reason they're setting up a high-tech police state. They're going to take all the slop away, and the public is going to go crazy, and they're going to use that crisis to bring in total control. And so, just like your buddy gave you a card and you found this show, you can wake up sheeple and say, stuff's going to get crazier and crazier. If you want to know how the world really works, you know, check this out or check this film out. And the people that matter will wake up and take action. 5% started and won the war against the British. We have way more than that, God bless you. But on the subject of spreading the word, if you're a PrisonPlanet.tv member, folks, you've absolutely got to share your membership with 11 people. 11 people can simultaneously log on with a PrisonPlanet.tv membership. Share it. And believe we can change things. We have a lot of allies in the power structure who don't like what's happening. But we have to have courage as well. I mean, folks, I'm not that smart, and I've been like a wrecking ball to these people in 19 years. Constant success every time we take the field. That's what history shows. We are stronger than these people. But we've got to set our will against them. Let's go ahead. You know what that means, set your will against them? Look into that. Let's talk to Steve in Maine. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Well, hello, Alex. How are you?
Good, brother. What's on your mind?
What's on my mind? Well, let me say it real quick. Got 60 seconds. I come from living the system way and ended up getting really sick. I went to 300 pounds from 168. On the end of it was 24 meds a day, 13 diagnoses. And last year of May, I basically broke away from it. I was listening to you since 2009. I've died, come back, had strokes, the whole works. And now I have one diagnosis, no medication, no, don't need a doctor anymore. And basically, it's all fear. They just try, oh, be careful, don't do this, you're going to die. Be careful, do this, you're going to die. Call me, do this. And it basically takes the creative, I mean, it just rips you apart.
Well,
and then,
I mean, medical science is great if you got your leg broken, but it's true that the #1 killer in the country now is prescription drugs, and they're screwing so many people up. And folks have deficiencies, you name it. Thank you so much for your testimony. That's an amazing story. In fact, I'll come back to you briefly to finish up. So, Steve in Maine, you heard, I guess, our guest on the show. decided to try to get out of the medical system to a certain extent, and it's had dramatically positive effects. If you just joined us, that's what he was telling us. Yeah, Ted Anderson, I need to check with him and see how his dad's doing. Went on Beyond Tangy Tangerine and Essential Fatty Acids from InfoWarsHealth.com because Dr. Wallach talked to him, and his dad knew who he was again and could go fishing again. It was like miraculous. The Alzheimer's was reversing. And he went to his medical doctor. They took his blood and said, you got vitamin K in you. We've got you on Coumadin, a blood thinner. You know, he never had a stroke. You got to stop taking those vitamins. And his dad, within a few months, didn't know who he was again. That was about a year or two ago. Got to get Ted to talk about that. And it's like these doctors are God. A medical doctor almost killed my grandmother a few months ago. My dad's a dentist and oral surgeon and a chemist. And he's really considering suing them because they gave her a diabetes pill that almost killed her, knocked her out, and she's 89, and she didn't have high blood level. I just said, we don't care. The Obama computer says do it. My dad wrote an article about that for Infowars.com. And they violated the procedures. They would be kicked out. But see, if you follow now what the prescriptions are from the feds, then you're okay even if it kills people. They tell you, your butt's covered. In medicine, you just do what we say. That's Obamacare. Sergeant Biggs did a story on that. We've discovered death panels. That's really what they are at the VA hospitals. Even CNN admits it. In fact, we ought to get that video tweeted out at Real Alex Jones. Go ahead and finish your point, Stephen Maine.
Well, yeah, I think, in the beginning when I was trying to wake people up, but I was real aggressive. I'm dyslexic, too. And the movies you have in your head are crazy. The normal person doesn't understand what we see. And, it was all on the table. It wasn't just one doctor. I had 6. And they were all doing the same thing to me. And then as soon as I said, well, I'm going to take these vitamins. Oh, don't do that. Don't take that stuff. They're not FDA cleared. But I'm like, well, it's not working for me. I have oxygen at home. I'm on the couch 24 hours a day waiting to die. There's something not right here. And so I just eliminated them and did it on my own.
What did you take specifically? Whose advice did you take that was so life-changing?
Yours.
But, the guests that were on the show?
Guests. I did a lot of reading. I had to relearn history. Literally from baby to now, I was like, this doesn't match what these guys are saying, what I know. So I started looking, reading, researching, and it's literally taken me 6 years to get my head straight. And last May I took it. I was 300 pounds on all that medication. I got a wife and 4 children, and we totally lost 315 pounds now in a year without going to the gym yet.
What products did I recommend that you took?
Well, I got a lot of them. Tangy, Pollen Burst, Super Male Vitality, which I was impotent, not anymore.
Oh, yeah. Folks, just buy a bottle.
Not to bring that up. You know that commercial, the Viagra commercial?
Yeah.
Everybody laughs about, if it's more than 4 hours, try a 16-hour one, and then go into the doctor and getting it checked.
Well, I haven't had that happen, but I don't want to get into it. Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless you. We don't sell it as an aphrodisiac. Okay? All I'm telling you is, that's the fluoride shield. All I'm telling you is, this isn't a game. InfoWarsLife.com. Try it. At least you're supporting the broadcast, even if you think it's baloney. It's not. And, we do not cut corners. The leading competitor sells it for twice as much, and we happen to know what they're paying. $5 a bottle for them to make it. It costs us $16 to $18 per bottle to make this. That's how concentrated, how hardcore it is. And it's the real deal. We're joined by Joel Skousen, the editor of WorldAffairsBrief.com. And I apologize for cutting him off 10 or 15 minutes early today. We have to, because the Justice Department gag kicks in as early as tomorrow on Tosh Plumlee. And he just called us. The Justice Department visited him today with the subpoenas. We'll find out more. I guess it was the FBI. They listened to our show. That's in the subpoena. He's not gagged yet. And they want to know about me. They want to know about InfoWars. and they want to know about this article right here. Now, this is the Attorney General. And he's a famous CIA contractor whistleblower who's so deep in the whole deal, what he calls light side, that's what Skousen calls it, that he is currently flying weapons all over the world for the Pentagon and the CIA. And, you know, he's from Texas like I am, and I'm not bragging, which is how we are. He said, I don't care if they kill me, I'm going public. We were flying guns to Al-Qaeda, and the White House knew, and I've talked to special forces and all the rest of them. And then he's got his 11 questions for, and we'll put those on screen, his questions for the DOJ, and they are now subpoenaing him, wanting to know, and wanting to testify, how he knew this information. And, of course, that's what Joel Skousen always says. He says a real whistleblower will have the Justice Department come after him, you know, with these sources, or these anonymous sources. Well, this isn't an anonymous source. And now, of course, what is in his 11 questions, part of that is the fact that the emails, he said, no, they have emails, they knew, and then they ordered a stand down. Well, that's now been confirmed. So what Plumlee said has been confirmed, and he predicted when he was on 3-4 months ago with us that they would, quote, this is important, subpoena him to make him testify in secret to gag him. So I want to get into Ukraine. I want to get into the economy. I want to get into the whole internet censorship move that's going on with Joel Skousen. I want to cover the waterfront with him, the limited time we have, worldaffairsbrief.com. He's the editor of that, and a former Marine Corps aviator in the Vietnam era, and the nephew of Cleon Skousen, one of the main granddaddies of exposing this whole criminal operation, and we appreciate him. I also want to get his take on the Bundy situation. I haven't gotten that yet. So get ready for the waterfront. Quick interview, sir. What is your take, though, on what I just brought out with Tosh Plumlee, with the Fed showing up? That's what he said when he called us, and he's being subpoenaed. He's been testified in Congress decades ago as well. And they want to talk about my show, and they want to talk about how he knew this information. What do you make of that and the latest Benghazi revelations?
Well, there's a lot on the plate, isn't there, Alex?
Yes.
Before I answer that, let me just say I just got back from Norway, where I spoke to a growing group of young and intelligent libertarians there, and they found out about me and invited me because of being on your show. So you've got influence over there in Europe, Alex, and they speak very highly of you.
Well, tell them I said hi. Thank you for the kind words, sir.
Well, you know, what Tosh Plumlee is doing is becoming a very rare thing nowadays. In the 1980s, when Rodney Stitch wrote his book, Defrauding America, there were literally tens of whistleblowers, pilots and people in the military and the DEA and the CIA who were being sent to prison because they were whistleblowers. He got the story out about their stories. And that's why they started doing mercenaries. You know, it wasn't because it was cheaper than our soldiers, but they just couldn't trust our soldiers who had a conscience to keep doing the illegal black operations. And so they've been turning it over to other people, and that's why they contracted Blackwater and DynCorp and other of these mercenary groups. So
my great uncle was brought as an Army officer into the CIA, worked for him for years, and then it got so evil he left. So that's a lie that people don't ever leave the CIA. My great uncle refused to carry out criminal operations in Chicago. That's all he told my dad and I. That included murder and narcotics trafficking, and so he left. So the point is, this stuff goes on. They can't trust our soldiers.
Well, you know, things have changed, though, Alex, in the CIA, and there used to even be an anti-communist element in the CIA that was involved in the Bay of Pigs, trying to organize it, and slowly that's been shut down. They have tightened up. They don't allow anyone who has qualms about government black operations to be in black operations anymore, and they really do tie them up with contracts so that they can't talk. It isn't 100% a perfect filter right now, but literally what people used to, like your uncle, get away with and get out of the service and have them leave them alone just doesn't happen very much anymore. So obviously we have less and less whistleblowers. Tosh is one of those, and I applaud what he says. It's absolutely true, and we need this kind of information. It just is essential. What were the other topics you asked about?
Well, there's so many, and I want to ask what you want to get into. What was your take on the whole Bundy situation? I mean, for me, I see that as people standing up to an attempted Tiananmen Square type event. There's obviously some disinfo folks trying to stir things up out there, but Glenn Beck came out and said, I wanted violence when I'm calling for the opposite. He did kind of apologize yesterday, and I want to play that clip later if we have time, and say that he doesn't want infighting, but I'm still Malcolm X and he's Martin Luther King. I just see an attempt by them to kind of frame the Bundy thing as violent. I don't think it was violent, but I think they're trying to go that direction.
Well, it was interesting that the media did play up on the one individual that had an assault-style weapon. They called it an automatic weapon. They called it a sniper weapon. It was neither. It was a semi-automatic assault rifle that he was aiming in the direction of the BLM.
I don't think he should have done that because that was provocative. They were doing it back, and that was provocative. I think that was bad.
No, that's right, and we don't need that right now. We need armed people to be there because they clearly had threatened that there's going to be bloodshed there, and that you better bring your body bags and you better bring your caskets. So, you know, that Nevada commissioner, Clark County commissioner that made that, shows that within even the county governments there are people who are very much on the side of big government and are not willing to buck them. But, you know, the story of the Bundy thing is a little bit mixed in my mind in the sense that the principles were correct. The reason why Bundy was stopped paying the fees was not because he was just trying to be a freeloader. They kept changing the rules, and that's the way the BLM does, kept cutting down the number of cattle. In the name of the tortoise, there were many other ulterior motives involved. The biggest one is that the federal government really wants all private inholders and landholders with rights out of federal land. You know, Bundy's Ranch in particular is not flat. It is not suitable for the solar operations.
It was an easement to that, though, in the documents.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. But it's the general area that was in the large-scale plan for developing solar energy there. They wouldn't have had to take his particular ranch to do that. But there is something very real to the story about Harry Reid and the corruption. I quoted in the World Affairs Brief a New York Times or a LA Times article about how you do business in Nevada and how you've got to throw that business to Harry Reid. And that's the LA Times, an establishment newspaper, coming out and talking about how he and his family have become wealthy through special deals that they can offer through his auspices. And unfortunately, some of that is illegal. It's unethical, in my opinion, to get wealthy. But that's how the establishment works. But, you know, unfortunately, Cliven Bundy is not the most well-spoken or careful individual. He did make a mistake that was taken out of extreme context of making what could be made racist remarks. If you remember, Evan Meekin, the governor of Arizona, they just waited until he made a slip of the tongue and then they crucify him. So, you know, somebody's got to get a media person when we have the next type of a fight here and say, you know, got to train these people to be very, very careful when you go before the media. As you know, Alex, they're just waiting to pounce upon any mistake that you make. Now, there was some real severe disinformation going on about last week about hundreds of federal agents massing in Las Vegas at various hotels.
And ridiculous drone strikes. The feds would never do that. Would blow up in their face. It could turn the whole country against them.
Well, you know, your listeners can tell when there's disinformation. I can understand somebody wanting to be anonymous, but really there was no requirement to be anonymous on that. In addition, you always want to look for something specific that you can check. He could have said they're at this hotel, so that I could have sent subscribers down there, as I often do, to check things out and say, you know, are they there? Are there hundreds of SUVs? And do you see a lot of agents milling around? Without any specific information, I'm always very skeptical that somebody's playing us on the internet. And often they do that because the government's tracking all internet blogs and communication. And they're making lists of people who respond in a flamboyant way to these stories, which they themselves probably put on the market.
Well said. When we come back, I want to give you the floor to talk about whatever you want. What do you think's front and center right now? Joel Skousen at worldaffairsbrief.com.
Well, it really is the Ukraine story. We've got to remember that this is the prelude to World War III. Now, I am of the opinion it's not imminent because Russia and China aren't ready, but this is the beginning that I have talked about for so many years, that Russia put millions of Russians into the former Soviet states while they were still Soviet states, and did that so that he could come in to rescue them at some time when he was going to provoke this war.
Just like Hitler used German populations in Ukraine and Poland as the pretext in World War II.
Yes, in Czechoslovakia and Poland. He went into the Sudetenland, he went into Poland to supposedly protect. So we could see this coming, and I still think it's going to be slow. The fact that he's always doing this with masked individuals.
We'll stay there. We'll get your perspective, a deep perspective on it with a really smart guy, Joel Skousen. I'm Alex Jones of Infowars.com. And follow our latest breaking news at Twitter at RealAlexJones. We've got breaking gun news, too. This story's up at DrudgeReport.com. It just broke at Infowars.com. Holder's latest scandal. DOJ now pressuring banks to refuse service to gun stores. This is what Hitler did to the Jews before he started arresting them. I mean, the political persecution of these people is just unbelievable. I'll get Joel Skousen's take on that after he gets into Ukraine. Joel, reset from when you were on a few weeks ago, saying that you saw the Russians back government stand down a few months ago with the overthrow with the Soros NATO-backed group. But that doesn't mean then that Putin's good either, obviously. And that you're saying they stood down as part of a plan so they can then partition the country or try to take it over. Now they're massing Russian troops. They're clearly involved in asymmetrical warfare, shooting down helicopters, shooting mayors and people. What's happening?
Well, that is my unique point of view, and you remembered that quite well, Alex. My point was that this had to be, in the Ukraine, an actual Russian-engineered coup, not a pro-Western coup. Now, I'm not saying that the pro-Western didn't have influence in the opposition, but this had to be a pro-Western coup because only the Russian forces could have ordered the police to stand down to let the protesters win. They're the only ones who could have told the Party of Regions, the pro-Soviet party in the Ukrainian parliament, who had the vast majority, to vote against Yanukovych and oust him. And what has happened here has matched exactly my predictions. That is, that Ukraine has only put up a token resistance, and it is token. They've announced today, for example, that they have effectively lost control over the situation in the country's eastern Luhansk and Donetsk regions, where a number of government buildings have been taken over by pro-Russian separatists. And then today, hundreds of, well, it says there's kind of conflicting stories, as there always is here. It says hundreds of pro-Moscow separatists stormed government buildings in one of Ukraine's provincial capitals and fired on police holed up at a regional headquarters. In fact, there were only 20 rebel gunmen opening fire with automatic weapons and stun grenades. Now remember, nobody who's a civilian in Ukraine has automatic weapons and stun grenades. So these people are armed by the Russians, and they may have special forces direction in there. They go one by one after these police stations. But what I'm going to say to you, Alex, is that the strange thing that nobody's talking about is that it doesn't take a whole army to stop that kind of an assault on a police station. They just simply have to telephone the regional military of the Ukraine and say, we need some special forces in here. They drive them right in. You can drive away 20 armed rebels easily, and Ukraine is doing nothing at all. They claim to bring military tanks and armored personnel carry into the Ukraine, but they have not fired a shot. You know, it's just not that difficult to stop this kind of small-scale escalation. Well,
listen, I don't agree with you that Putin's going to let turmoil heat up and then try to take half the country. I predicted day one they would end up partitioning the country. That's my prediction. But in Slavyansk and other areas, they did send in helicopters and tanks. Those tanks are being attacked. The helicopters are getting shot down. Clearly, these are Russian special forces. Most of them, it's admitted, are former pro-Russian police in the cities that want their jobs back. So it's mainly former soldier/police that are obviously probably being commanded by Russian special forces.
But no one ever lost their jobs because of the coup. You know, that's a bunch of propaganda that any of the pro-Russian people lost their jobs. If they lost their jobs, it's because the pro-Russian people fired them, so they'd have an excuse to go before the media and say they lost their job. Look, under Yevchenko and Timoshenko, the previous so-called pro-EU prime ministers, none of them lost their job in the bureaucracy in Ukraine. And that's one of the major indications that that was never a pro-EU government.
I get it. I get it. I mean, whenever the Democrats get in, they fire all the Republican attorneys they can, vice versa. And that's just intramural battle, and those groups still kind of work together. Here you're saying the bureaucracy is staying the same.
That's right. So if they were really against Russia's control, they would be clearing out the communists, they would be clearing out the pro-Russian, and they have not done that. But the most important thing to understand here is that Russia is not, and I don't predict they're going to actually invade Ukraine with any troops. And they don't have an excuse to do that if Ukraine doesn't effectively contest this militarily.
Well, hold on. Are you saying you think they're going to let the Russians take over the whole country again using thugs?
Not necessarily the whole country. Tension to always exist to justify additional intrusions.
No, exactly. So partitioning. Or tell me what you think when we come back. We're coming right back with Joel Skousen. World Affairs Brief. I'm Alex Jones. 10 minutes. Tosh Plumlee, a true Benghazi whistleblower, flying arms for the State Department and CIA. Naming names, naming the program. Has been subpoenaed by the Justice Department, is set to be put under gag. But he's here to tell us what they were asking him and what they're saying, and guess who got brought up? Guess whose show they said they were listening to and what's named in the subpoena? Alex Jones. And they want to know what else I was told. Everything was said on the air, DOJ. Everything is done on the air around here. Total transparency is our rule. Now, going back to Joel Skousen, worldaffairsbrief.org, sorry that break cut you off. Let me quantify what I'm saying, my question here, because I can ramble and babble. I, day one, thought it could be a secret deal between the globalists, like Hitler and Stalin dividing Poland, or the Allies making a deal and killing Patton and dividing Berlin and Germany. That's a classic imperial move by two crime blocks, two predatory blocks, as you would call them. And so I agree, I see that there. The larger issue is they've been trying to overthrow Putin. They've been playing a double game, and they have been invading some cities. I do agree that we see some stand-downs. I think it's just because things are in such flux. So I'm not denying that you're right that there's a lot of pro-Russian forces in the government. Hell, half the country's Russian probably, or leans Russian. But, so I'm not saying they'll take the whole country over. I'm just saying, do you think there's a backroom deal to partition the country beyond just the Ukrainian government?
There's no backroom deal between the West and Putin to do any of this. Putin is running the show, and the West is letting him get away with it. There is no attempt by the globalists to overthrow Putin. They want a strong Russia. They want Russia to attack the West someday, so they're going to let him happen. But you'll notice here that Putin is slowing things down, as I predicted. If he wanted to race and have a justification for war, he would strictly send Russian troops in, invade, and force the West to contest him. He's not doing that. That's why it's very important to understand that he continues, even inside Ukraine, to use masked separatists, masked militarists that he calls a militia. Well, there's no militia in Ukraine at all. So these are militaristic creations of Russia. And what I want to predict to you is that there are 6 or 7 regions in eastern and southern Ukraine that he's going to take next, not by invasion, but just by using the same policy. And remember, Ukraine government could stop him in an instant by rushing in special forces very quickly, just small teams, to stop these attacks on police stations so that none of them were in effect. What we're seeing here, one after another, these police and city stations are falling because they know that no help is coming. It's the same thing that happened with Chiang Kai-shek in China. After the word got out that the U.S. was cutting off aid to Chiang Kai-shek, and that the Mao would continue to get aid from Russia, the poor soldiers in the barracks were just looking at annihilation. So they started to defect. And the
OSS and CIA personnel that got set up and basically killed on the ground and turned over to the communists, famously, of course, with what happened with John Birch. So expanding on that, it's been declassified, you know, what you were just saying about our government helping put Mao in, the greatest mass murder in history, in 1949. So I've got to say, I think your perspective in my gut may actually be an accurate one. And we see a romanticization of Putin kind of by folks that don't like the globalist. But, you know, at the same time, I agree with you. Russia's got to know, though, that they're being set up. I mean, they're as smart as we are. or smarter, I'm sure, with all their big brains over there? Or will it be their lust for power that ends up causing this World War III scenario?
Yeah, I'm not sure they really understand that they're being set up, that the globalists, they're really intending to strike the West someday, but they're being careful. Now, let me just continue before my 6 regions, or 6 or 7 regions. Everybody knows that the Donetsk region, which is in eastern Ukraine, is under assault, and that's probably on May 11th going to vote for some sort of autonomy or independence. Next is Zaporizhia and Kherson. These are on the south and the east, right above by land bridge to Crimea. Then there's only 2 more regions, Mykolaiv and Odessa to the west on the southern border. If they take those, they've got a direct run right into Moldova, and Putin can then take Moldova. You see, he's encircling the western portion of Ukraine, and yet he's not invading. He gives the West no excuse to contest him because he's using these separatists or these rebels. And while the Ukraine government continues to put out evidence of direct Russian involvement there, it's murky enough that Putin can continue to get away with it. And I'll tell you, the NSA has spy equipment on this scene. They could reveal in detail lots of conversations that prove that Russia's in direct intervention here, and they are not doing it. To my mind, that proves that the West is not out to expose Putin's plan. They're going to let Putin play his role. And this is going to branch out into the Baltic states. It will branch out into portions of Poland, Belarus, and Georgia. Georgia's already been invited into the NATO military group. It's not NATO itself, but it's the German, Eastern European.
And that'll force a new Cold War, forcing different regions to join NATO and the EU, or join the Russians, ending independence in that area of the world, which is what the globalists really don't want.
Well, they don't want independence, you're right, but they do want Russia to continue to take back the eastern states. At some point, when Russia's ready, it's going to provoke, whether or not it's an eastern provocation, as I predicted, North Korea attacking South Korea, or Russia actually starting to actually invade some of these Eastern European countries and take the rest of them. Either one of those could provoke World War III, and he shows no sign of doing that. That proves my point. He's not ready yet. This is going to be a slow burn situation, but it is aiming for World War III. In fact, I'll tell you, in my speech to Norway and those people there, they would have been extremely reluctant to believe my scenario about World War III had it not been for what everybody sees now is real Russian strength starting to grow and show in Ukraine. And the sanctions, of course, are just tokenism. I can't believe the second round involves just adding another half a dozen people to the list of restricted bank accounts. I mean, if anybody can't see, the U.S. and NATO is simply not attempting to do anything to stop Russia. Nothing at all.
What about the issue of the State Department spending $5 billion to destabilize Ukraine and having advisors in there? If your idea is right, I know large portions of it are prima facie, on its face true, but if your overall view is correct, then there's got to be a nexus at the highest levels where the system is actually opening the door for Putin, and did this overthrow show that their own sleeper cells from the Russian side could then have this excuse to have these regions claim that they want autonomy?
Well, we have to remember that this $5 billion figure was strictly from one source. This was Victoria Nuland talking to a pro-Ukrainian audience, and I don't believe that that $5 billion by any means was ever spent inside Ukraine. You can't, in a country like Ukraine, inject without it showing up, obviously. There's just no way. It's way.
Do you think she just said that to then even legitimize what Putin's doing more?
Well, what I think she did, I think she was exaggerating. I think $5 billion is probably the black budget for all of the post-Eastern European states, and none of that hardly gets into the country. Most of that is to German foundations and Austrian and Hungarian and Romanian globalist foundations. Most of it's going to their own kind of people. And yes, they are giving scholarships. They are throwing that money around in others. But that money was not injected directly into Ukraine. Otherwise, it would have showed up. Audience there and using the figure for all of Eastern Europe as if it applied strictly to Ukraine.
All right. Well, Joe, we'll have you back for a full hour soon. I appreciate you coming on. We're about to go to Tosh Plumlee, but I'd like you to give your take on the new Benghazi revelations, the hour-long press conference going with Carney on the ropes, the fact that the White House did lie on record, and the State Department said they had no emails, knew nothing for, 8 hours, and now we know minutes into it, they were watching it, putting out talking points. Why has this been released now? Is the system getting ready to take down Obama? Or what do you make of this?
No, I don't believe it's taking down Obama. What is very interesting about this whole email controversy is that Obama and Hillary Clinton play zero role. There's zero reference in any email to Hillary Clinton or Obama, and that proves my point that they have nothing to do with the running of day-to-day operations of the government. These are national security councils and advisors and State Department people, long-term cadres that are running this globalist show, and they're simply the figureheads and the puppets. But remember, even though what Tosh Plumlee says about the running of guns and those types is absolutely true, the real smoking gun of the Benghazi thing is the stand-down order, and nobody is picking that one up like a hot potato, even though General Ham said directly to a congressional committee, there was a stand-down order given to me, and I was relieved within 2 minutes of refusing that order. And not a single congressman asked him, who gave that stand-down order to you? Don't you find that odd? That a congressman who should be shocked at that would have asked, well, who told you to stand down? Not a single one did so. And that's the big smoking gun. Nothing, I believe, is going to blow wide open unless the establishment lets that one go. And the chances of blowing that open are 0 to nil. Even Ham has not come out since his retirement and said who it was. Neither has Admiral Goyette, who both had a stand-down order.
That's the big issue, and we'll bring that up with Tosh Plumlee. Thank you so much, Joel Skousen, worldaffairsbrief.org.
My pleasure, Alex.
Or is it .com? And again, I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Now, I'm not going to go over his whole bio here, but Tosh Plumlee, since the late 50s, has worked for the Pentagon, CIA, you name it, on aircraft weapons flights, troop flights, you name it, and clandestine operations. He's been a multi-time whistleblower to Congress and some of the most famous investigations out there. But because there's a light side to the government, they've still kept him there working. And he put out his list of 11 questions on our broadcast back in October, because he'd already been contacted by the Justice Department then, and he's literally been on the show before holding up a group of planes before they take off for the Middle East. And he broke down his sources saying that it was a stand-down, was a weapons transfer to arm al-Qaeda. He's the only internal whistleblower. They've changed identities, they've gagged, they've disappeared the other people that were over there. This is a big deal. And he got contacted and is being subpoenaed and will be gagged by the Justice Department. And he told my crew that my name was brought up, but they were, quote, listening. And so I'm going to find out what's in this subpoena, where this is going. As this huge Benghazi news breaks right now, that indeed there were these emails and they've been caught lying about that. Mr. Plumlee, thank you for coming on, sir.
Okay, you're welcome, Alex. It's been a little spur of the moment deal, so I hope I'm organized well enough to...
No, we have limited time. You've got the floor. Recap what happened. Tell us what's just transpired.
Okay, as you know, a few months ago, I posted 11 questions I was concerned about on the Benghazi thing because of information I'd received from a source that worked in NATO that used to work with the Mexican Marinos with Task Force 7 down in Mexico. The information came back to me of staging areas, guns going to Jordan, gun running from C-130s from the States into the Middle East, all kinds of different things. And the question was asked of me if I was aware of this. That particular time, I wasn't aware. Mrs. Stevens came out, who was one of the mothers of one of the gentlemen that was killed in the Benghazi attack, who was sort of snubbed, in my opinion. And so I started putting the 11 questions that was raised by this NATO source and other questions that I had concerns about weapon shipments. So the whole thing, to me, back in September, October, began to appear that it was a weapon shipment. The whole thing was over gun that was coming from the direct commercial sales program and being transported to forces inside Syria, not necessarily Syrian rebels, but forces inside that were pilfering those weapons from storage places like the Annex building and CIA safe houses in Pakistan and Jordan. Some months later, that was confirmed and vetted by Washington Post and other, a couple others I can't remember. But at that point, then I was made contact first time asking where and how I was receiving my information. I told them, that source, that at that time, that I was an investigative journalist working for a newspaper called SalemNews.com, and I had uncovered information that plane loads of arms were coming from our arsenal to the Syrian rebels, I quoted rebels, going to stockpiles and safe houses in Jordan, and then being handed out through cutouts and private contractors to various forces that worked for Syria. This was before our president made the announcement that we were going to arm those people. They were already being armed covertly. This program has been a program that has been ongoing for a number of years.
And that, yeah, 3.5, and that includes Al-Qaeda, which is now big news. So let me ask you this question. Now you're being subpoenaed again. Tell us what happened.
All right, well, here's the information I got and the reason I contacted you. The subpoena, as yet, has not been issued. It's in process. I was told today that Mr. Plumlee, they're process of subpoenaing you, blah, 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 to go back and talk about it. And I said, well, what the hell do they want to know? They want to know where you got the information about the arms shipment. So,
and for those that don't know, when I've been subpoenaed before, the FBI calls and says, we're coming tomorrow with a subpoena. So that's the so basically you've been told a subpoena is being issued by a judge soon, and I guess that subpoena will probably say you're gagged when you get it, correct?
That's the good way I understand it. I'm not. That's the reason I contacted you. I want this information out there before the fact so that they don't do a number on me like they've done in the past. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah, now you also told my producers, this is secondhand, that they brought up your radio interview here?
They brought up not only yours, I was on some other broadcasts talking about Benghazi on other matters, and then in that other interviews, Benghazi came up, and I quoted the 11 questions.
Yeah, you said they brought up my show and Coast to Coast AM.
Right. Your show and Coast to Coast, that's when Mr. Wells, I believe, was with Coast to Coast, who is now with another deal.
All right, stay there, sir. We're going to come right back to you, Tosh. We're going to come back, and you'll have 6 minutes to just say whatever you want on the other side before you get the subpoena and are gagged from speaking out. And it's the Justice Department that's running all this. Fast and Furious, another gun running operation. The whole destabilization of Mexico, the whole deal. They're getting ready to gagging. And they're bringing up our show. We'll be right back with the Benghazi whistleblower straight ahead. I want to say hi to Eric Holder right now. How you doing there? William Robert Tosh Plumlee testified before the Frank Church Committee and his Select Committee on Intelligence Activities. He was one of the key witnesses on that. And also, Plumlee testified that their assignment was to stop the planned assassination of John F. Kennedy. We got to get him on someday about all that stuff. He worked from the 1950s on for the CIA as a contract pilot and even flew arms of Fidel Castro in Cuba before they flipped sides for the overthrow of Batista. He joins us right now. He got threatened when he put this stuff up on Facebook for our show last year, but he's back, and his fear was he would be subpoenaed because then they would silence him. That's why he came on last year. I was saying this year. Time flies. Back in October, and he's back with us now. So you've got the floor, sir. You were contacted. Was it by the FBI or was it by your lawyer? And you were told that this is in process. What did they tell you?
I was in a source that came back to my attorney that he had found out, and the source contacted my attorney and said they were in process of preparing a subpoena for me in reference to the 11 questions that I posted on Facebook. And that's what information came to me. So then it was a question of how we're going to prepare for this. So I was told not to go on air, and keep this quiet. I decided that was not the best thing to do because the only thing that's going to protect me and others and the people that are the sources, the sensitive sources that I have working with NATO in the Middle East, the only way that I could keep them protected was to come out here, and that's the reason I contacted you. I wanted this to be on record before the fact, before I received the subpoena, because the way I understand it from my legal advisor is that if I receive the subpoena and then go on the air and talk about this, I'll be violating possible gag orders, and that's even more trouble. So that's the reason for contacting. I just got through posting the 11 questions that I was not supposed to post back up on my Facebook page just about 10 minutes ago. So if anybody wants to go on there, look at it, they can read the 11 questions. The reason the 11 questions is so important is it's not about the Benghazi with Susan Rice and all that and the interview that's going on now. The 11 questions, they are still sidestepping, in my opinion, because perhaps you can read some of the 11 questions, you know. I mean, one of them was asking, is it possible to be enough off-the-books secret covert operations similar to what was run in the Cuban era and back in the 60s and coming into the 80s and 70s with the drug war? These were questions, things that I've been involved with. Could we be selling and supplying dangerous high-impact weapons while aiding and financing both sides of a civil war in Syria? That's the question I was asking the Congressional Committee. 45 letters were sent out with these 11 questions to our Congressional Committee, and the only thing that was returned by them was requests for campaign contributions from us asking those questions. We did not get those questions answered.
So what you're saying is, bottom line, you've risked your life, your family's everything to tell the truth here, and now they're about to gag you to then claim you can never talk about those 11 questions again. So you're trying to draw attention to this and to what's about to happen to you so people understand you're about to go into the clutches of the very perpetrators of arming al-Qaeda.
That's about the size of it. Same thing happened to me when I testified to Kerry in reference to the Iran-Contra. They called me back, subpoenaed. I was a little bit naive in those days. I went back like fat, dumb, and happy, raised my right hand in the committee. They turned right around and then classified a committee sensitive top secret, and it's still classified committee sensitive and top secret today. And I started writing articles about that particular era of Iran-Contra. Then I got the same type threats that I'm getting today, that I was releasing classified information, blah, 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 and basically to shut up. So I'm not going to shut up. I did discontinue my Facebook account yesterday because I wanted to see about how this thing was going to unfold without me.
Stay there, Tosh. We're going to do 5 more minutes of overdrive with you. I want to get your Facebook, put it back up on screen. We'll give you his official Facebook on the other side, and I will tweet it out the next 5 minutes at Real Alex Jones. Retweet it. Get this info out everywhere. This is real whistleblowing, folks. Real Edward Snowden level stuff. Stay with us. All right, Robert Tosh Plumlee, famous CIA Black Ops contractor, still operating, was told recently, take your Facebook down, you're going to get it. So he took it down. Now he's being subpoenaed, he's been told. So he's put it back up. It's Robert Tosh Plumlee on Facebook. We're going to tweet that link out when the show ends here in about 5 minutes to everybody at Real Alex Jones on Twitter. We're going to have it relinked to a new article at Infowars.com. But talk more about how you were threatened and any other final points you'd like to make before they make you testify and then gag you as a witness forever.
I'm not going. That dragged me back this time. But anyway, the big questions they were mostly concerned about when I asked, and this question was asked to me by my source from NATO who, like I said earlier, worked with a task force down south. And it's a program, very secret program. But anyway, number 10 on that question, which they seem to be more concerned about, did our ambassador and others, weeks before they were murdered, notify our State Department and CIA that Syrian rebels had obtained U.S. weapons, including Stinger missiles from Jordan, Turkey, Pakistan, shipped to those CIA safe houses. Now, they wanted to know how I found out about Jordan and Pakistan. And that came from a sensitive source who works for NATO, who was in that region, had been transferred to that region from another task force. I have some military contacts that are personal friends because I used to be their pilot. We stay in touch and have stayed in touch for a number of years. So, 11 questions were asked to clarify what we knew beforehand, because from the very beginning, this administration outright lied to us, continues to lie to us, and if anybody will read these 11 questions, they have yet to been answered in their entirety. And they're very simple questions. My question to you and the audience out there is, why won't they answer these questions?
Well, by the way, Tosh, while you're talking, we're showing video from last week where the al-Qaeda rebels are bragging, and it's in mainstream news. They now have the latest Stinger-type missiles to shoot down aircraft, and they're promising to attack America and Israel and other folks with them. But I guess that America and Israel, the people running us, will be able to use this as a way to take our liberties here domestically. What do you think the end game is in arming the al-Qaeda rebels with surface-to-air high-tech missiles?
I hit the profit deal. I don't really have any opinions about what this administration's ideas and what their game plan is. I don't think they have any idea what the hell they're doing, in my opinion. So, but the only thing that I was interested in is the fact that they were lying. They were outright lying from the very beginning. And they on and on. And then they were retaliating against military people that were telling other people that they were lying. And then what did they do? They retaliated against the military people and said, hey, wait a minute, we're running guns to these factions. And they said, shut up, and they pulled them out of the field and signed them to other positions and made a bad mark on their reputation. Now, this thing's been going on for a number of years. So why am I'm not upset about this. I'm just asking one simple question. Where in the hell is our Congress? Where in the hell is our Senate? Ask these 11 questions directly to the State Department and demand answers. These questions are not that damn complicated.
No, they're giving missiles to al-Qaeda publicly and firing a bunch of top generals and low-level people that don't want to be part of it. And the military said no to attacking Syria 7-8 months ago. That's a big victory. And Tosh Plumlee, you're a big part of that. And it's Robert Tosh Plumlee on Facebook. You have a lot of courage. Obviously, if you don't get the subpoena tomorrow, we want to talk to you again. And I'm glad that you're not going to be following their tyranny. We need more people like you. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Okay, you guys take care and hang in there.
You bet. People need to pray for you and all other whistleblowers. I'm going to say a prayer for you, Tosh. I'll say bye to you here at the end, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow when we have more time if you want to do it. I'm Alex Jones. Until tomorrow, support InfoWars. We are the tip of the spear. We're the real deal, and that's why we're under attack as well. So pray for us and support us. Great job, crew.